So the faculty at Harvard just voted to dramatically change how grades are given. More specifically, what grades can even be given. Starting in 2027, professors there will only be allowed to give A grades to roughly 20% of their class, plus up to 4 additional students. This move comes after a report found that 60% of all grades given out at Harvard were A's. Back in 2005, that number was only 24%. The faculty says that grade inflation has gotten so extreme that grades have stopped meaning anything. They argue an A is supposed to represent extraordinary distinction, not simply competent work. Critics, however, say that the new policy artificially creates scarcity and punishes students even if an entire class genuinely performs at a high level.
So this isn't just a Harvard problem. Grade inflation has exploded across elite colleges for years, and many employers and graduate students quietly admit they no longer know what transcripts actually mean. At some schools, students now panic over an A minus the way previous generations panicked over a C. Some professors say students increasingly view effort itself as deserving of an A, not mastery. Others argue students today are under crushing pressure, drowning in debt, competing in impossible job markets, and dealing with mental health struggles older generations never had to navigate at the same scale. But underneath all of this is a bigger question. What are grades actually for? Are they for feedback, motivation, a sorting mechanism, proof of mastery, a ticket to future opportunity? Or are they just a game everyone learns to manipulate?
What makes this debate fascinating is that both sides seem to have legitimate arguments. On one hand, it could be argued that if nearly everyone gets an A, then excellence loses meaning. Employers stop trusting grades, truly exceptional students stop standing out, academic rigor erodes. But on the other hand, if you artificially cap A's, then grades stop measuring mastery and start measuring competition. A student could do excellent work and still lose out simply because too many classmates also performed well. So the core tension becomes, should grades measure absolute achievement or relative ranking? And maybe the most uncomfortable question of all, are we trying to educate people or sort them? Welcome to Two Millennials and Mom.
I'm Callie.
I'm Cole.
And I'm Mom. And we have had this discussion multiple times over the last week. How funny we think it is, how irritating we think it is, and
Stupid.
hence why we're here having it today. Because I mean, we even got Dad involved in this conversation, and it just kept coming back up and back up. I mean, there's an argument that this is Harvard, and so you should have the best of the best. And so maybe 60% A's are accurate, but then you start listening to what the professors are saying, and you're like, no, 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 no. Wait, are you just giving out A's? I mean, there was even a conversation about kids who aren't coming to class are still making an A. And so we've been all over this place.
Here's my thing. The professors, the faculty, are the ones who are saying, oh, too many people are getting A's. You're the ones giving the A's.
Stop giving A's. You're in control here.
It has been a trend, and they even did a study on it and came up with this. Hey, we're giving too many A's. Okay, then look at why you're giving A's. I mean, isn't an A supposed to show that you were exemplary and with the knowledge that you have on this subject? So
yeah, mastery of the content.
Maybe 60% at Harvard is right, but if you're also doing 60% at your local community college, that sounds a little weird.
I also think that this is just a classic case of the whole, we're treating the symptom, not the cause.
Yes.
And so that's the part that just irritates me so badly. I'm like, guys, instead of putting a cap on this, because I think that there is an argument to be made that says, hey, if you do a great job, you deserve to score well. But just to put a cap on it and say, well, if you did a great job, you don't get to score well because we already scored other people. Like, how does that work? Are you just
Yeah.
going to say, oh, well, I graded the first X number of papers and gave them A's, so everybody else gets a subpar grade, no matter the level of work? Like,
Or do you have to rank? You have to grade all of them simultaneously so that you can rank them to know which 20% gets the A.
I mean, really, that's going to make it a lot harder to grade because you are, Cole. You're going to have to put everything in a ranking system and say, okay, well, and how are you going to do that?
I mean,
this
how does that
is
take it
their
from like an
job.
objective? Sure, it's a part of their job, sure. But to me, the more important job than grading, and I guess grading is an important part of this broader idea, their job is to teach people.
Yes.
Their job is to instill that mastery. And if everyone does it, I mean, I would think that that probably speaks very highly of the professor if everyone
We're
gets an A.
we're still
If you
talking
have
college kids.
an objective, mechanical criteria for this is what is required to achieve this score. If you meet the bar, you meet the bar. If you don't, you don't.
I mean, look at this. If you're talking about a multiple choice test and everybody gets 90% of it right, let's just say 60% of your students get 90% of it right. How do you grade that? How do you
Well,
Yeah.
how do
it
you
doesn't
Which
matter how
20%
many
get
people.
A's?
Yeah, it doesn't matter how many people get it right. Like, the answer doesn't change, right?
I mean, so
I get the feeling Harvard probably isn't leaning that heavily on multiple choice tests. I get the feeling they're probably leaning more heavily on like open-ended lecture exams, or excuse me, essays. But I mean, I don't know.
In the couple of Harvard classes that we've taken, there's lots of multiple choice.
Sure, but you're not taking that exam to get it marked on your transcript as, hey, I
mm,
passed this Harvard course to go to grad school.
but there were people in that class who were taking it. We were auditing it, but there were other people that were taking it, and if they were
Yes.
taking the same test that we were, a
Okay.
lot of it was multiple choice
Yeah, I would
with an
say
essay.
80%. Yeah.
Yeah, with an essay at the end. And I wouldn't say, I mean, they they weren't all easy questions. You had to have some knowledge of the
Yeah.
material to get them right. But if somebody taking the class was getting the same test that we got, it it was multiple choice to a degree. And yes, there were writing
Open-ended
tests
questions. Yeah.
that came after that, but at the same time, if you're how do you do that if you've got a test that how do you rank people when everybody's getting the answers correct? Which and of course that's a question to me. Is 60% of the class getting 90% of the test right? Ha-
Does that not mean that at some point the test might need to be up to the ante? Like, maybe they're too easy?
I can see that argument, but at the same time, if you're taking a class, it has specific criteria. If people are understanding and mastering that criteria, that means they go to the next class. They go to 201 or 301 or 302, whatever it is. That is what is upping the ante when you're talking about a collegiate structure. If you're saying, okay,
In
this is the
theory.
material that you need to understand, and you understand all of that material, moving the goalposts is not the point. The point is, this is what you have to understand. Do you understand it or not?
But you, as the professor and as the faculty and staff of one of the most prestigious universities in the country, like, you're the one who get to set those parameters. You're the one who get to say, hey, this is what it is that we're trying to teach. Hey, this is how we're going to teach this. And to
Sure.
me, there's a part of this, and I'm going to get in trouble for saying this. There's a part of me who says, this is a professor problem. This is all of y'all trying to be lazy, saying, well, grading is too hard and we have to be subjective and we are going to have to read all of those answers. And I don't care. That's your job.
I don't know if it's quite can blame the professors in full. I mean,
It
there were some other things about kids coming back and saying they deserved an A and that there's this mentality there that students are pressing for this and punishing the professors if they're not getting it. So,
how? How is a
oh,
student punishing a professor?
I think
Are they
there's
leaving
lots of
them a
ways that,
bad Yelp review? Who cares?
But
no,
I think that that's important. Are they trying to, as professors, are they trying to avoid complaints, especially in today's day and age? Like everything, well, my teacher was mean to me and now they have to resign. I mean, the court of public opinion via the internet is a treacherous place. And so are they trying to avoid getting complaints against them? Are they trying to teach,
I think it's a
educate
great
students?
question. I really do think it's a great question, and I think it's got a lot of facets to it that you need to
Have to
look
be
at.
taken
But
into
just coming
consideration.
back and saying, "Oh, we're gonna stop giving we're only gonna give 20% of A's." I want you to give the
That's the
A's that are deserved.
yes, I do too. And but that's the problem with putting a quota, putting a cap on it to
Yes.
say, well, only 20. What if more than 20% did the work that deserves an A? That's the
Yeah,
problem.
yeah. Okay,
Because
I
here's the
have
thing.
to
What if I got an 89 and you got a 90, but the professor likes me more? What if I
Mm.
bring him donuts?
That's the part that I feel like this is your job as a teacher to set all of that aside. Cole brought donuts, but he didn't do a
I
great
agree.
job.
I agree.
seriously?
And that's why this is completely counterproductive to what
Yes.
an A, B, C, D, or F grade is supposed to represent.
Right.
Yeah.
Did you get it right or not? Do you understand the material or not? And look, here's the thing. If you want to reward people, if you can get an A minus, why can't you get an A plus?
Okay, here's my analogy. It's my turn to do an analogy.
Let's hear it.
If you wanna bake chocolate chip cookies, you can make just normal chocolate chip cookies, or you can do Toll House cookies and they're a little bit better, or you can do some really gourmet ones and they're even better. It's all a chocolate chip cookie, but there's more to each level of that that needs to be rewarded in the process of doing that. And that's how I think about these essays that we're talking about and giving showing that you have received the knowledge. I can regurgitate the facts, but maybe what that professor needs to be looking for is more of, is there more gourmet knowledge here than the average Joe? And if we're not looking at that and we're giving everybody the same A, that's a professor problem, Cal.
Do you have an understanding of the topic at hand? Can you sit here, whether I agree with your opinion on it or not, can you sit here and defend your position flawlessly? And
Yeah.
again, it doesn't matter if I, the professor, agree with your opinion. It has to do with your understanding of the topic at hand and how you go about explaining and expressing that, how you go about working through all of the different points of it. You know, I remember especially in high school, show your work, especially in math classes and things like that. Like, just because you got the right answer is irrelevant. I want to see your thinking. I want to know how you got there. And math is less subjective, right? 1 + 1 is still 2, always, every time. So I get that it's more subjective in these instances, but at the same time, I feel like that's the professor's job to say, hey, you really have a good grasp of what it is that you're trying to convey, and you've done a really, really smooth job of conveying your thoughts.
Yeah.
If you
And
want to sit here and make a case for why you think the world is flat and you can do that successfully, it doesn't make the world flat.
But again, did you meet the criteria? Did you
Yeah.
meet the standard to achieve this rank? Do you understand the content well enough? And did you convey that you understand it well enough?
Right.
so
Period.
is
And
that
here's the thing. If you've got a really good professor and he goes and he spends one-on-one time and he has more office hours than everybody else, and all of his students meet that standard, I
Mhm.
don't see why they shouldn't all get
Great.
A's.
Great.
So if everyone is above average, getting 60% of the A's in the class, is there really an average anymore?
That's a higher average.
I mean,
But here's the thing.
that's a
If you
bell
walk
curve,
into a
right?
room with a room full of superstars, they're all still superstars. Maybe you like some of them more than you like the others.
But that doesn't make any of them average. They're still
In that room they
superstars.
are. In that room, the average is superstar.
Okay. I don't know. I think grades are supposed to represent effort.
But I think that that's part of it. Mom, you said something here I think it was you in the intro when we were talking about students that are not ever going to class and still making A's. I think all of that needs to be taken into consideration because to me, and I don't really care what the reason is why you're not going to class. Maybe you have a job and you have to support your family. Like, I'm not here to judge any of that, but what is the effort that you are putting forth to master this class? And I think all of that needs to be taken into consideration when giving those A's. I do.
So we've talked about having grit in the past.
Mm-hmm.
Does grit play into that A?
Grit plays into your capability to achieve to meet the standard of an A.
Yeah.
And I'm with you, Callie. If you're not, here's the thing. If you have a full-time job and you're trying to feed your family and you're taking a master's course at Harvard at the same time, I go in, I'm in that same master's course. I already know all of the content. This is something that I've been interested in since I was a kid. I don't need to go to class. I already know all the answers. Do I
Then don't take the
deserve less of an
class.
A than you? No,
Yeah.
but I need the A for my transcript so that I can have a master's degree.
Do you need the A or do you just need a pass?
Regardless, if I have mastery of the content, do I deserve an A less than you?
I'm not saying that you deserve an A less than me, but I think that it's the entire breadth of the whole course, right? So I think that that is on your final exam. Sure, great, you got an A. But on all of
Yeah.
these little tiny assignments up until then that you blew off because you already knew the content, you're
Maybe
shit
I
out of
did
luck,
do the
buddy.
assignments, though. I just didn't show up to class.
Then don't take the class.
Why? Again, I need the class. I need it for the
No,
degree that I'm going towards.
no, you want that. You don't need it. You
No,
want
there
that.
are literally specific classes that you have to get your degree for certain degrees.
I mean,
Right.
he might be right.
But you can test out of all of that
That's true.
At
You could
Harvard?
clip out.
at
Sure.
anywhere. Yeah, absolutely. And so you've got 13-year-old kids at Harvard. They tested
Getting
out
A's.
of 7th and 4th and 9th grades. Yes, absolutely.
Which brings into question, is that 13-year-old getting an A the same as that 20-year-old with the same amount of effort? And what happens to that 13-year-old if they're not?
Do you guys remember, did either of you listen to the Smart Girl Dumb Questions podcast with the 13-year-old? I think he's 13. I'm pretty sure he's 13. Kid going to Harvard.
No.
He is brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. But there are skills that he does not have.
Yeah.
Sure.
And it
Because he's
shows.
13.
Because he's 13. And so that's kind of my whole point in all of this. He can sit here and master the subject, but he can't talk to you about it because he doesn't have any kind of interpersonal skills that give him the opportunity to say, this is why I believe that. This is why I think that you need to be challenged on this. This is the
Yeah.
part that you're missing. And that's my whole point with all of this. I am not sitting here trying to say that he is not smart. He is brilliant. But in that interview, and I'll link it in the show notes, but in that interview, there are multiple times where him and the host stumble over each other. Her kind of calling him out for kind of being a dick. And he's not doing it intentionally. He just doesn't have the skills to get a hard time. She says, he's talking about some kind of math, some kind of specific math. And she's like, oh, so now you're going to give me a hard time because I don't know how to do this and this and this kind of math. And he's like, well, yeah. And it wasn't that he was wrong. It was that he didn't know how to translate any of that to be relevant to the conversation. And at the end of the day, it made him look kind of like an asshole. You got a 13-year-old asshole over here going, well, this is what the answer is, and you don't know how to do transgressional math or whatever it was. I mean, so that's where I'm going back to taking the entire breadth of it all and saying, hey, you may have a mastery of this piece of it, but if you can't convey and show your work and explain why you're right and I'm wrong, do you really have a mastery?
I think that's a valid point.
Yeah. Yeah. I just found this subject just amazing because it just seemed silly to come back and go, oh, we're going to cap A's.
Again, treating the subject, not the cause.
Yeah. It's punishing the students, and I just can't see why you would do that. I mean, this all feels so lacking in common sense to me. I mean, either 60% don't deserve the A's and aren't being taught the content enough that that there's a challenge there, or we're giving A's to everybody freely without any requirements there. And so it just seems, wait a minute, where's the common sense to get back to this to say, okay, treat those things, either teach a better class or really figure out who deserves the A and who doesn't deserve the A.
I mean,
again, I think that misses part of the point, though. What if everyone deserves an A?
And I agree with you. If everyone deserves the A, then they should get it. But the question that I have there is that a lack of teaching criteria? Because I'm just afraid that if 60% of you deserve an A, then have you been stretched enough on the subject to I mean,
Is that the student's fault?
no, it's the professors. It's a professor problem.
Yeah,
But here's
I
the
would
thing.
say,
What if the class is Algebra 101? It's not subjective. It's objective. It's math. If everyone understands basic algebra and they show their work and they understand the concepts, do you just start asking them Algebra 202 questions to start weeding people out? Or do you stick to Algebra 101 content? Because, it's Algebra 101.
As someone who failed Algebra 101, actually, I think I failed Algebra 2. I can't remember. I failed one of them and then was successful in the other, no problem. I think that it speaks to the fact that I did not understand the premise. I could not get there. And I deserved to fail. I did not pay attention. I did not do my homework. I did not listen. I did not do the reading and the actual assignments. I deserved to fail. And then I got a fire lit under my ass and I figured it out. And I learned and applied those same principles today.
Sure, but that's just you in one class. It would be possible for a whole class of students to all meet the standard to get an A.
Who sets the standard?
The curriculum does. The professor does. Again, Algebra 101 covers this specific material. And if they already understand that, that doesn't necessarily mean that you add new, not Algebra 101 material. It means that everyone in that class gets an A because they all get it and they can all display it with proficiency.
Or what if you're giving the Callies of the world who didn't get algebra the A because she was there all day long and she came to class and she participated, so she gets an A? I
Did
mean, you
she
have
master the content?
It depends
no.
how you're grading the content.
Then it's not an A.
Which is my point. This is a
Yeah.
professor problem. Because
Agreed.
somebody has to sit down and look at it and say, "Ugh, Callie is still sucking at this. Callie still doesn't get it." And while everyone else in the class is getting an A and they're doing a great job and they have mastered Algebra 1, Callie didn't get it. So, sorry, girl. Nope.
Okay. I don't know if this will make you feel any better or not, but algebra was the first class I ever got a C in. I did not understand algebra at all. It was like speaking a foreign language to me. It made zero sense. And one of the first classes I got when you were little, when I started substitute teaching, was an algebra class. And I thought, oh my God. And I walked in and started working with the kids. It was a high school class, and it made perfect sense to me.
Good.
And 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 I'm sure those kids thought, "What the hell?" Because I was so excited because algebra made sense to me. Of course, I was 30 years old instead of 15.
But that's grit. You had to work for that. You had to be embarrassed. You had to get back up and say, "Oh, shoot, I am absolutely terrified of doing this right now. Oh my gosh, I get it."
I don't know if it was grit, Callie, or if it was just exposure,
Okay.
and all of a sudden it made sense,
A fully
where it had
developed
never made sense
brain.
before. Do what?
A fully developed brain.
Yeah.
I'm pretty
So
sure I had a very love-hate relationship with my Algebra 2 teacher because that was my first block class every morning, and I slept through it every single time. And then I would get to the quizzes and to the exams, and I wouldn't show my work, and I'd get all the answers right. And she would say, "You didn't show your work." And I'd say, "I don't need to. This plus this equals this. This plus this equals this. You multiply those together. Here's the answer. I can do it in my head. I don't need to show my work. I got it."
yeah. You were very ornery about showing your work when you were
How do you show your work on something like that just makes sense? Like,
to get
there's
an
no
A.
need for me
You add
to show
this
my
plus
work. Like,
this,
this is
and
a
then you add
waste.
this plus this, and then you multiply this to get this. That's how you show your work. You just said
Yeah.
it. You just didn't
Yeah.
write it
I
down.
understand, but
Yeah.
the need to do that in my head as an undeveloped 16, 17-year-old kid was a massive waste of effort. I don't need this. Why am I wasting time doing it?
That
So
is the
if you were at
curriculum.
Harvard doing that,
I would
and
fail because I did not
we
meet the
only
standard.
Perfect.
only
And I
do
just barely passed algebra because I
I
showed
got
her
all
that I
the-
didn't
agree.
need to show my work.
my point is, if you got all of the answers right, but you didn't show your work, so you're not in the 20% because you didn't show your work, but you got all the answers right, you know the material,
It goes back
but
to
you
what
can't
Callie
have
was
an
saying
A
earlier.
because of
I
the
could not
20%.
I could not convey my mastery of the material regardless of my mastery of it. And it's not
Yeah.
that I could not, it's that I refused to.
Yeah.
You did.
And I didn't get
Stubbornness
an
will
A in
cause you
that
to
class
fail
because
too.
I didn't deserve one because
Yeah.
I did not meet the standard.
Yes. That I wholeheartedly agree with.
Do you think that we don't respect other grades anymore?
What do you
You
mean?
know, like we can only have A's?
Well, I mean, an A is the best, but there were lots of
If you
times
ain't
where I was
first, you're
real happy to
last.
get a C. I was high when I said that, Ricky.
Mom, you're not supposed to laugh that much at that one.
It was funny.
It was funny.
I
I
just
mean,
I
I
don't think my generation had this intensity about grades.
would
And
agree.
I don't think either one of you had intensity about grades.
Especially not at the time.
No.
And
Do you think that
and
has
I
to
would
do?
say this as a mom who's raised two kids. I don't think your education is all about the grades. your education is about the exposure and the experience. So I don't know that the grades, they're not the tell-all.
Sure, but you also have to recognize there's a big difference between two teenagers making it through high school and someone attending Harvard, one of the most prestigious universities on the face of the planet. Those are not equivalent.
Okay,
Yeah, I get that.
let's. I don't disagree with you. I don't disagree with you, but I do think that we have to take into consideration the pressure, I'll call it, that is being put upon not only students, but also faculty and staff at especially prestigious colleges, for universities, for legacies by parents. Here just a few years ago, you had the whole scandal about all of these various parents who were paying to get their kids into their alma mater, into these elite prestigious college and universities. And there were plenty of students, A, who didn't know about it, that their parents had done it, and B, who then came out and said, I did not deserve this. I should not be here. And while I admire the lack of nepotism, if you will, I do not think that is every single person that is enrolled at Harvard today, for the record. I don't think every single person at Harvard, their parents bought their way in. I'm very sure that several of them worked their tails off to get in there and absolutely deserve that. That's not at all what I'm saying here. But I do think that we have to take into consideration that the people who worked their tails off, that isn't everyone. And I'm not sitting here saying that's a minority or a majority. I'm just saying that isn't everyone.
Yeah.
And
I get that.
To kind of roll from that, what happens when the parents start bribing the professors? And is it now just the 20% of the wealthiest students
Right.
get A's?
Yes, exactly. And that's where I go back to that question earlier. Are these professors teaching to the point of mastery? Or are they teaching to the point of avoiding drama, of avoiding complaints, of avoiding angry moms coming after them with pitchforks and social media?
I started to say social media could eat you alive as a professor. I mean, look
Yeah.
at all of the ones who got fired or got in trouble over saying something about Charlie Kirk or about Palestinians or about Jews. I mean, it's a rough world out there, especially when you're dealing with people who live their lives on social media and know all the ways to handle it. That's a tough deal.
Yeah,
And I don't
absolutely.
know how you prevent that because it's so much of part of our society. So, I mean,
I know how you prevent it. You say, this is the criteria for a C. This is a criteria for a B. This is a criteria for an A. If you meet the standard, that is the grade you are given. If you don't like it, tough. You want to shout at me on Facebook? Shout at me on Facebook. I don't check it.
But that's the thing, Cole. It doesn't stop with I don't check it. It stops where the dollar stops. Well, so
yeah,
now so-and-so's
Why?
parents are pissed off because of money. They're not going to give this big, huge donation to X school because they're pissed off that we failed little Timmy.
We
Because little
shouldn't be
Timmy's
running our
sleeping in
institutions
class.
that way anyways.
I don't disagree, but it doesn't
I
change the
agree
fact
with
that that's
you.
how it is happening. You can see that over and that is a systemic problem that is running rampant long, far and wide beyond colleges and
Education.
universities.
Yeah.
Yes. And I am not at all saying that we don't need to address that. We do. But I think that, Cole, you're always on the side of, well, that's not human nature. So as much as that sounds like it should make sense in theory, that's not reality. You're right. We should not be sitting here giving kids grades based on parents being mad or giving donations, but they are, and it's happening. And I
Yeah.
don't know a way that we could
Fire
do
'em.
that. Fire who?
The dean, who's more concerned about the donation than they are about the integrity of their university.
I want to ask you guys this question. You've both mentioned that Harvard is an elite school, that it's the, one of the most prestigious. Do you think that their caliber of student is just higher and therefore deserves more A's?
In theory, it should be.
I guess I struggle with that in that I think that if you put 10 people into a room,
10 random people, 10 economics professors, 10
Or
Nobel Peace
10
Prize
10
winners.
Harvard graduates.
let's say 10 people, just 10 people.
You have to you can't just say 10 people. You have to give us more because
Okay.
it's different depending on who those 10 people are.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're going to take 10 valedictorians, put them in the same room. Are you going to tell me that all of them are the same level?
Maybe.
No.
They could be.
At every topic across the board? No, they won't be. Some will be better at this and shine more at that and dull out here.
Well, what if I take 5 valedictorians from 5A high schools and 5 valedictorians from 1A high schools? Are they all going to be on the same level? Probably not.
Right, which is my point.
But if I take 10 valedictorians from the same 5A high school, they might be of similar calibers.
I'm sitting here thinking of the top couple of people in my class when I graduated high school, all the same, and they all had totally and completely different skill sets, different knowledge bases, and they could sit here and one of them's going to whoop up on you on this and be way smarter than you on this, and the next one's going to be way smarter than that one on the next subject.
But if they all take Algebra 1, do you think they're all going to get A's?
No, I don't.
No.
If they're valedictorians, they did. They got A's in Algebra 1.
You're probably right. That's true.
Yeah, you might be right. I just think putting people together and ranking them, there's always going to be a person who's at the top, and there's always going to be a person who's at the bottom.
But that's not the point of grades.
So what is the point of grades? I mean, is it to give feedback? Is it to motivate students to get better at things? Is it to sort them and to say, hey, you're really good at math, you should go be an engineer, or you're really good at English, you should go be an author? Is it to prove that you've mastered something? Is it to make a point to future employers? Hey, so-and-so's really good at this. I think that your GPA should be on your resume. I mean, like, whatever it may be, like, what is the point of grades?
To let you know how well you have mastered the content.
It's only for you. You as the student?
That is what it is used for. It can be used for other things because once you know how well someone has mastered the content, let's say I'm an employer and we work in a really math-heavy industry. Well, how did you do in math? I made all A's. Great. But if I made all A's and somebody else made all A's, they may be more or less qualified than me because they may still have a better mastery of mathematics than I did. We both just met the standard to get an A in the math courses that we took.
So is your grade relevant at all in that case? Or should they be giving you some kind of test or conversation about that specific use case and say, hey, this is what it is that you need for this particular job in this role, so we're going to test you on this?
Exactly, because here's the thing. I made all A's and he made all A's. I took Algebra 1, Algebra 2, and Geometry. He took Trigonometry, Calculus, and Astrophysics. Which of those two are going to be more, which of us is quite clearly, at least on paper, likely to be more competent in mathematics? We know that he has an A mastery of more difficult, higher level math than algebra and geometry.
I think it
but we
depends
both
on the
made all
job.
A's.
And see, I'm sitting here
what
thinking
you're going to be using it for.
It's really
exactly.
I go back to the 13-year-old genius, Callie. I mean, he's smarter in that mathematical stuff, but as far as the social part of it, he's not. And Cole, you can take your valedictorians and do the same thing and go, I mean, they both make A's, they both know math, but one of them is going to excel in that in a way that the other one may not be able to, whether that be social
which is why you only have one valedictorian.
Yeah,
But there are lots of kids at every high school who make straight A's.
that's true too.
Yeah. Just FYI, I have to correct myself. My 13-year-old kid is at NYU. He is not at Harvard. Just FYI.
Okay.
The particular one that was interviewed.
We'll forgive you for this mistake today.
Thank you.
Don't do it again.
Yep.
No
I
promises.
appreciate it.
So, how do you think students are going to react to this, especially the students in the 60% who've been
cares?
getting A's?
Who
Do you
cares?
think? Well, Cole,
It's
if
not up
they're
to them.
all anxiety ridden, it's going to
Then
make a
don't go to
difference.
Harvard.
Mommy
Oh my
just
gosh.
paid for it.
I cut
got
my
to.
finger. Do I stare at it and cry? Or do I go get
God,
disinfectant and put a Band-Aid on it?
the sympathy is just oozing here.
Almost as much as the blood.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, it's I don't care about
Okay.
your feelings.
We
I
know.
think the coursework at Harvard should be more difficult, consuming more than the coursework that you're going to get at your local
How many different
because you
courses
are
are
paying
there
for
at
it, Cal.
Harvard? How many courses are there at Harvard?
Hundreds.
I don't know.
Hundreds?
Sure.
Thousands?
Maybe.
So if I go to Harvard and I only take the easiest classes, and then I try and measure up to someone who went to Harvard and only took the most difficult classes, and we both made all A's, we both met the standard in our classes, but they quite obviously have a greater mastery of the overall content because they took the more difficult courses. So maybe they have difficult courses already at Harvard, and you just have to nut up and take the hard ones. And if you don't make an A, you don't make an A because you didn't master the content. I mean, here's the thing. School and grades are pretty simple. This is what you need to know. Do you know it? Can you convey that you know it? Good? Great. You can't?
But how does that
Tough.
But how does that apply to real life after school? Post school?
I took the easy courses. He took the hard courses and got A's in the hard courses. He is more qualified.
So we're not going to put any of the onus on the professors, on the students, or on the colleges themselves. We're going to put all of the onus on the employers for you to go verify who took the harder classes at the more prestigious college so that you can make the better hire.
Yes, that's what candidate qualification and due diligence is.
And yet we have Harvard grads not finding jobs either.
You have people in every field from every university not finding jobs because the degrees that they went to college for were out of date by the time they got their degree.
You have a point there too.
Because they went to a
that's a
prestigious
totally
school like
different-
Harvard and they can't accept a job that is paying what these corporations are willing to pay. This is a completely different issue than the coursework at the university.
Yeah.
I don't know, Boo. I guess I'm a little surprised by you because you've been pretty down on the education system and not teaching.
Because they do stupid shit like this all the time.
I feel like
If
this
it was
is just a
effective-
way of excusing them. Well,
What do you mean?
you offered the classes and I took the easy classes, so I did really well at Harvard, and so it's the employer's responsibility. Just pass the buck. We don't have to step up and be the prestigious college that we've become known for over decades. We have their name recognition, that's enough. We don't have to stand by any of that.
Yeah. My Harvard education in basket weaving is going to open a lot more doors than
I just think it's
Please.
passing the buck.
What is passing the buck?
Putting it all on the employers for them to go and figure out exactly what classes you took at Harvard, how you did with them, and verifying all of that.
And you did kind of say that's what it would look like, Cole. And that's really difficult to do. I mean, to have somebody have to look at your transcript. I don't even know. Do employers look at your college transcripts anymore?
Yes.
No. I have
For a lot
never,
of
ever one
positions-
time. I've never one time in any of the jobs I've ever had somebody ask, request, look at, discuss my college transcripts. Never once.
Really?
Never
You've never
once.
had to get a college transcript? for a
Nope.
job?
Nope.
Then why is Harvard concerned about employers are saying students are getting too many A's?
I don't know that it is the employer saying that.
No, it
I
was
think
a
it's the
research study that came out that they all looked
yeah.
like morons when 60% of the grades that were being given were A's.
That makes me wanna know what the other 40% was.
And were they,
B or
like,
lower?
totally bombing?
B or lower. What's the
So hopeful.
percentage, though? What's the
Yeah,
percentage of Bs and Cs and
yeah.
failing? I kinda wanna know this. When you've got this overwhelming 60% of A's, what do the rest of them look like? What do you
Let me
have to
see if
do
I
to
can
get
make
a
this argument
B
for
or a
you.
C at Harvard?
Is it easy to get into Harvard?
It
It
depends on
depends.
who you are.
For the for the normal high school student, is it easy to get into Harvard? So, generally speaking, we would expect those who are getting into Harvard are overachievers, right?
Okay, I'll
Generally.
go there with you.
So it would make sense that if they worked so hard to get into Harvard, a large portion of them would keep that up in their coursework to make high grades while they're at Harvard, right?
You would assume so, yeah.
And certainly, there are going to be some who don't meet the standard. Even though they were able to overachieve all through high school, they're not going to be able to keep that pace when they get to Harvard. And some of them are going to make B's, some of them are going to make C's, and some of them are going to fail out because they burned out so hard. But to me, it's pretty reasonable that a large portion, maybe even a majority, of these overachievers are able to maintain that pace and get A's.
So would you feel differently if this was, say, University of North Texas and they were given 60% of A's?
I think it's a different look. Yes. Do I think it's possible for 60% of students at UNT to get an A? Yeah, I do. It depends on the courses that they're teaching and the students that they're accepting. Do I think it would be likely for 60% of the students at UNT to get A's? No. Do I think it's possible? Yeah.
But it would be different for you if 60% of the students at UNT got A's than if 60 because you think the caliber of student is different.
Most likely, yes.
Hmm. Okay.
I'm sitting here looking at both the early acceptance rates as well as the regular decision applications that are accepted at Harvard, and the percentage of people who are accepted varies wildly. Like from 2000, like in 2018, Harvard had, let me tell you this one first. In 2019, Harvard had a regular decision acceptance rate of 3.23% of all applicants. So of the 31,386 people that applied for acceptance at Harvard, they accepted 1,000 of them. The year before, in 2018, they had 17,000 people apply, 17,618, and their acceptance rate was 9.94%, three
So
times more than the year after.
What was the change?
No idea.
meeting the bar.
And then in
I'm sure that wasn't
2017,
it. That's what you would hope it would be, but it's how many seats they needed to fill.
Just to have juxtaposition, you wanna know what the acceptance rate at UNT is?
yes,
What would you guess?
I don't want to guess. I'll feel like an asshole.
72%.
The early acceptance rate at Harvard is much higher.
Wonder what the
Those same
difference
years
between
were like
early
30%.
acceptance. Wild,
Mhm.
wild.
I don't know. I think that we have to be really careful as to what we're using grades for as a purpose, especially long term, beyond just this class, this semester in
Yeah.
this school. And I think that we have to hold everybody accountable, but I surely believe that we need to hold our professors in colleges accountable to say, hey, this is your job to educate people, not to pass them just because that's easier.
Agree. And we need to hold the we need to hold the students accountable too. Hey, you didn't meet the mark. You didn't meet the standard. You don't get an A. You don't even get a C.
But that responsibility falls on to have that conversation falls on the staff, faculty and staff.
I think it does, and I think it falls on the criteria of what we're measuring. Are we measuring intelligence? Are we measuring compliance? And how are we measuring that? And I'm not going to say that that's an easy thing to determine, but it has to be more than just getting all the answers correct.
We have to hold people to more than the court of public opinion, the standard of the court of public opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to go
Yeah.
back, Mom. What more than getting the answers right?
Knowing the actual, mastering the content, not
Mastering
just
the
getting the
content.
answers right.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
How do
Because
you
again, to
display
use your
mastery
own
other
words
than getting
against
the
you,
answers right?
because to
so
use your own example against you, when you were in your algebra class and you didn't show your work and you didn't explain everything, you did not meet the standard, because the standard was to show exactly how you got there, show your thinking, and do the work.
Sure. But showing the work is getting the answer right.
Yes, but if you only get the answer right and you don't show the work, that does not count as showing the work and getting the answer right.
I understand what you're saying. Allow me to clarify. In that specific example, in order to get the answer right, you have to show your work. So showing your work is, yes, the math problem itself, I got the right answer, but I did not display mastery of the content. Therefore, did not get the answers right, did not get
yeah.
an A in that class.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what she's saying.
That I get that. To me, that's not more than getting the answers right. That is just getting the answers right. That's how you display mastery.
Yeah. I think and I'm using intelligence as the term of how I'm saying that, not just compliance of getting the answers correctly.
Right.
So I don't know. Cole's not giving them any benefit for mental health, so they just better buck up and do it
Don't go to
right.
Harvard.
It's not all
You're
just
afraid of
Harvard.
cars? You're afraid of buses? Don't stand in
Yeah.
the middle of a highway.
Yeah.
It's not that hard.
So just to throw a weird kind of thing in there, do you think AI is going to make it harder to distinguish exceptional work?
Yes,
Yes.
I think it already
Why?
is.
Because I think that it's less about the answer and more about the prompt. Again, showing the work, right? And if you can't sit here and justify how you got to X answer, subjective or objective, either way, you're not mastering the content. And AI is really good at doing all of that work for you,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
and you don't have to.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
It
where I'm really
raises the
worried about it.
floor for the minimum level of like quality.
Intelligence. Mm.
Yeah. I think if a kid is using or a student is using AI, then I'm not sure that they do have the mastery. I'm not sure that they have the capabilities of even identifying if there's something is wrong there, but they look really good. I mean,
Right.
That's kind of the point of AI, to be perfectly honest
Yeah.
with you, is to do the work for you. And I
Mhm.
understand, like, hey, because I have this tool, I don't need to understand this because it understands it for me, which is scary. And it's not just that it raises the floor, because in a lot of cases, if you raise the floor, it also raises the ceiling. The problem is with AI, eventually the floor and the ceiling are going to be the same.
Meat. Mm-hmm. I agree.
Do you think that's going to change the way that we test students?
I think schools will go away.
Ooh.
What do I have to go to school for?
And I think that we're seeing that happen right now anyway.
I have this chip in my brain that tells me everything I need to know. I don't have to learn algebra. I installed it yesterday. I already know algebra.
Oh my gosh.
But if we can do that in a way that allows us to actually know the content and not just have something else do it for us, that's turning you into a new species.
That's
That's
a big
Revolutionary.
if.
technological evolution.
Yeah. That's a great big huge if. If.
That
Okay,
is one of the intents.
just to know, we have covered this and argued this and laughed about it, and
If you couldn't tell.
yeah, it it I'm afraid that this conversation is probably not over because it just continues to come back and
There's so many facets.
yeah, there really are. But since Cole's blown our mind, I need a weird thought.
Okay, I got you. So we, as much as even the best of us have been living under rocks, we are all well aware that home prices have been ballooning and interest rates are painful, and there's all of this chatter about young people can't afford houses anymore. But Gen Z is actually buying homes at a slightly higher rate than millennials were at the same age. And they're
It was all
doing
that
it in,
avocado toast gig.
I know, screwed us, but it was delicious. So the interesting thing is they're doing it in these really unsexy ways. They are living with their parents longer or with roommates longer. They're skipping expensive cities or avocado toast, buying smaller starter homes, which I'm really curious where they're finding these. But the lesson, like the actual answer is all of these cities that are much cheaper, or maybe not
Yeah.
even cities, in these much more rural areas. So they're buying all of these smaller starter homes, moving to cheaper areas, and delaying gratification. And in some cases, they're avoiding college debt altogether, a la Harvard, and working remotely to make these things happen, to make these sacrifices worthwhile. Meanwhile, millennials kind of got sold a different dream. We were told that you need to go to college, you need to follow your passion, move out of your parents' house, build a whole life, hustle hard. And then we got smacked with the Great Recession, with all of this student debt, with the housing crisis and exploding rent prices. And the housing market kind of just ran away from us. So my weird thought is, did millennials actually become the cautionary tale that Gen Z learned from? Did they actually look at all of us and say, "Oh, not doing that," and make different decisions based on what they saw happening to us? Were millennials uniquely screwed by timing, or did we prioritize experiences, avocado toast, and independence in ways that Gen Z simply isn't willing to? Or is Gen Z more financially responsible, or are they more financially scared? And so they're willing to live out in the boondocks without a community in smaller houses because that's what they can afford.
That's such a fascinating question of and when you were talking about it, I was thinking, you've said multiple times that millennials looked at my generation and said, "We're not doing it that way." So is that what's happened now?
Yeah.
They looked at you and thought, "We're not doing it that way?"
I don't
I think
know.
that's definitely a part of it.
Yeah, I
So
think it is.
millennials in general, not everyone, but the millennial generation in general, one has a little bit of a hero complex, I think. But we think we are the main character.
We're not? Who's going to tell us we're not?
Exactly. And we never shut up about it.
My God, we're like the vegetarian generation.
Yes, exactly. And
God,
so
that's so
we say,
obnoxious.
my gosh, the world has done us so dirty. And Gen Z says, yeah, the world did kind of do you dirty. Maybe I'm not the main character, but I still want to be comfortable. So I'm going to do these things that are a little bit uncomfortable for a little while. And I don't need the mansion in Hollywood. I don't need the flat in New York. I'm totally fine with the 2-bedroom in Nebraska.
Cleveland.
Yeah. I mean,
Oh,
even
wow.
that. I mean, if you take a look at the top 10 largest cities by population in the United States, it's less than a tenth.
That's true.
25 million across the 10 largest cities in the United States. We've
Yeah.
got 340 million in population. So if you try and start concentrating people in these little bitty tiny areas, yeah, rent is going to go through the roof. maybe I don't need to go to New York. Maybe I don't need
Supply
to
and
live in
demand.
Chicago, especially since I have the internet.
And I think you also have the power of COVID and the pandemic that behind us where it said, "Hey, remote work is totally doable." This is an option
Yeah.
that we never thought was on the table before.
And here's the thing,
Yeah.
you can find meaningful work not working remote in rural areas, in
Yeah.
suburban areas. We need
Yeah.
people to work at McDonald's. We need people to work at barbershops. We need people at laundromats. We need plumbers. We need HVAC people. We need carpenters. We need steel workers. We need all of those things. You don't have to be the attorney. You don't have to be the Wall Street broker. You don't have to be a doctor. You can make a comfortable wage working in the trades. You can make a comfortable wage working in a corporate office, not having to be the main character. And when you're not the main character, you don't have to be devastated by it.
That's fast. I do, Callie. I agree with you. I think COVID changed that mindset in a lot of ways.
It
But Cole, I
showed
think
the
you're right.
world that
It doesn't all have to be big city, big title, millions of dollars. Maybe you find what you really want. And that's another podcast. Find what you really want to have and how you can get it. And I don't know if Gen Z is just better at that
I don't know
or
that
if they
I would say
learned
better. They're
y'all.
just different.
I think that they are, and I think that they have allowed home ownership specifically to stop being a financial milestone and start being more of a personality test. This is what I want. This is who I want to be. So I'm going to make that happen in by whatever means necessary. By working at a fast food restaurant and living in the suburbs of Cleveland. Okay.
Or with my parents.
I
Or
think
with my
with all
parents.
of the movies that we watched growing up, Cal, our generation just kind of expected it to happen.
Yeah.
I think
I
Gen
think
Z
your
watched us
generation expected
not
to.
let it happen, not have it happen. And they said, okay, we've got to do it ourselves.
I don't disagree.
That's a good weird story. I liked that one.
What's our good news this week, Ma?
Are you ready for just a sweet one? So we've talked about our dogs and our new family member whose name is Augie, and all three of us have had dogs really for most of our lives. I mean, we've
I've had
always
a
had a
dog a
dog.
whole lot more than I haven't.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. But we also know how lonesome it can be if you don't have that dog. And so these four guys in Bristol, England, found themselves living where they couldn't have a dog. Their landlord wouldn't let them have a dog, and they'd always had dogs before. So they noticed a shepherdor passing by, and they decided to write the dog a letter. And so they they sent it to the dog's owner. They sent the
Their
dog's
neighbor.
owner a letter and said, "Hey, if you ever need somebody to walk him or her," because they didn't even know if it was a him or her, "if you need somebody to walk him or her, we will gladly do so. If you ever get bored, we know you never will, but we can dream, and we are more than happy to look after him or her. If you want to come over and bring him or her to brighten our day, you're more than welcome. If you want to walk past our balcony window so that we can see him or her, please do." And it was from the boys in number 23. So the dog, Stevie Ticks,
Stevie Ticks
and
is great.
Stevie
Not
Ticks is
funny.
great, replied back to them and said, "Sure, but it comes with a price tag." And it would be 5 balls thrown a day and all the belly scratch that Stevie Ticks ever demanded. But their story went viral. It was a woman who had this dog, and she said, "Absolutely." And so the boys went and took the dog for walks and did things while they were living there and created
Became
this
friends.
whole dog sharing thing. And I have never heard of this, but there are websites like Borrow My Doggy or City Dog Share or Pet Neighbor. And just you can actually borrow somebody's dog for a moment or two when you can't have your own.
That's
I
sweet.
thought it was a great way of getting your dog loving when you don't have a dog. of your own.
I feel like that's a situationship that I want to partake in.
Wouldn't that be fun?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it.
So I thought it was fun. I mean, you get these 4 guys who are like, "Hey, we can find a solution here," and somebody who was willing to say, "Okay, yeah, we'll meet your criteria, your innovation. We're willing to do this." What a great way. Too much fun.
As somebody who frequents dog parks, sans a dog, I am A, so incredibly thankful, and B, absolutely blown away at the kindness that I have received of people saying, "We get it. Here's Fluffy. Like, you can
Yep,
pet Fluffy too." Of course she would love that.
I
It's
love
awesome.
that. Well,
Dog owners are cool.
Stevie Ticks must be a pretty awesome dog as
Special
well as
gal.
Sounds
her
like it.
owner. Yeah. So, love you
That's a
guys.
fun one. Love y'all.
Love you.